Good afternoon. We're continuing with the laws of Rechilus, the laws of gossip, tale-bearing, evil speech. We're on chapter 2, halacha number 3, Klal Beis, halacha Gimel. So again, Rechilus is when you go to somebody, you have a friend Tom, and you say, "Hey Tom, did you hear what John said about you?" That is classic Rechilus, tale-bearing, which the Torah prohibits. So we're learning the details of those laws. Now, we had a halacha when it came to Lashon Hara. Now, Lashon Hara is different from tale-bearing. Lashon Hara is just speaking evil about somebody. You don't go to tell Tom. Rechilus is when you go and say, "Tom, did you hear what so-and-so said about you?" Whereas Lashon Hara is you just say something bad about somebody else to somebody. So that's Lashon Hara. You just go and say, "Oh, hey, did you hear about John XYZ?" That's Lashon Hara. So in Lashon Hara, we learned that there's something called apitlasa, that if Lashon Hara was spoken in front of 3 people, according to some opinions and with some very specific circumstances, since the Lashon Hara was said in front of 3 people, under those very specific circumstances, according to that opinion, one is allowed to repeat it because it's assumed that the word is going to get around anyway. However, we don't rely on this leniency. So even if you hear something in 3 people, we don't rely on this leniency. And this leniency, even according to the lenient opinion, there are so many conditions. And that's when talking about Lashon Hara. So now the Chavetz Chaim is going to discuss that leniency when it comes to Rechilus. Yesh Imrim, there are those that say, Dim echad sipor gnus al chavero, that if somebody says something negative about his friend, bifnei shleisha, in front of 3 people, su ein bo mishum Rechilus. Im yachsur v'yamru lo ploni dibra alecha kach v'kach. There's no prohibition of Rechilus if you go back and tell the object of who he's speaking about. Now, that means you're standing in a group, and you're one of 3 people, and somebody says something bad about Tom. Now, according to this opinion, if you go to Tom and say, "You know what so-and-so said about you," in that case it would be permitted, according to this opinion. The reason is because it's when something's said in front of 3 people, it's going to become revealed anyway. Because people talk. This one's going to tell this one, and this one will tell this one, until everyone knows. And the Torah did not prohibit in this case because of Rechilus, because of tale-bearing. However, according to this opinion, it is only permitted if you have all of the conditions that we discussed earlier in the section of Lashon Hara, chapter 2, Sif Dalid, number 4. But then he adds a very important thing. Aval ein lismach al dea zelemaisa. But one practically should not rely on this. Just like by Lashon Hara, that one should not rely on the leniency of apitlasa, so too by Rechilus, one should not rely on the leniency of apitlasa. Ki hamarshal b'biur al asmakas v'sharav maharishonim chalkim al deazu. The Marshal writes that most early rabbis argue on this leniency. V'afilu l'saper la'achar im mischaven l'galos v'kol shchein l'zeh ba'atzmo. And he says that even according to the lenient opinions, we learned that if your intent is to repeat the negative information, that it's prohibited anyway, right? Even according to the lenient opinions that you can repeat what you heard, that's only when you're saying it, like as an aside, and your intent is not to further reveal the negative information. And all the more so here, if you're going to the object, to the person who was being spoken about, and tell him it's prohibited. So one reason that it seems that we don't rely on this is because there are so many caveats about this law, and number 2 is that many early rabbis argue on the law totally and say that we shouldn't rely on it. So even if you hear something that's said in public or that's said in front of 3 people, you should not go and tell the person who it was being spoken about. And there are some leniencies perhaps when something is totally public information, but there are also many details about that, so one shouldn't be quick to be lenient with that either. If a practical situation comes up, one should consult a competent halachic authority. Okay, halacha dalid. Well, according to this, im shutaf echad rotza lehistalik benidon ha'esek shelo mishutfo ki chashav she'acherim yishtatfu imo ulbaso lo alto biyado. Let's say you have a business partnership with somebody. You own a store together, and you're thinking about leaving the store because you have a better business opportunity. Or let's say a person was getting engaged is engaged to somebody and he was thinking of breaking it off. Asur legalos davar zeh lahashutav harishon shelo after kvar nishma davar zeh ba'apei tlasa o yoser k'mo shekasa b'sif gimel de bevada yinkot le belibo al shutfo al davar zeh sheratzu listalik meito k'mo shekasav beyiftach umadua ba'atem alai atem kasher tsar lachem upen yasiba sheyivut alai zeh shutfusam o sheyatzu lo machmazeh k'mo shekasav Rambam v'mesaper lechaver dvarim shegormen lehezek chaver begufo o mono o lehetzelo o lehafchido harizel lashon hara. To summarize that. You have a business, someone has a business partnership with somebody, they own the store like we said, and he was thinking about leaving the partnership because he might have a better opportunity, and that opportunity fell through, and you know about it. It is totally prohibited to go to his partner and tell him what happened, because that's going to cause a fight between them, and he's going to, they're not going to get along, or maybe that will cause the business partnership for breaking up. Or the same thing if somebody was thinking of breaking off an engagement or something like that, and he doesn't in the end, it's not appropriate to tell the other partner what that person was thinking, if you know about it. And he brings a proof from Yiftach, and also he says that any time, right, the general rule is, or that he cites from the Rambam, that the prohibition, think, if my speech is going to cause damage or pain to somebody, then it is usually prohibited. So this case, obviously, by telling someone's partner that, so-and-so was thinking of breaking off your partnership, you should just know, and that's going to cause friction between them, then it is totally prohibited. And in the proof from Yiftach that he caused, that the speech caused pain, so you can look there. But with that, we finished chapter 2 of Hilchos Rechilus, the laws of evil speech, the laws of tale-bearing, and next time, God willing, we will go to Klal 3, chapter 3. So again, we just learned that tale-bearing is prohibited even when you hear negative information about somebody in front of 3 people, and if someone has a partnership and he's thinking of breaking it off and the other partner doesn't know, it's totally prohibited to tell him and let him know about that. And again, the main idea is that we have to be very, very careful with our words, because sticks and stones will break my bones, and words will also break someone's bones and could cause pain to somebody. And the Torah wants us to not cause pain to anybody, and to, on the contrary, use our words to help people and make them feel good. And hope everybody stays safe during this tropical storm rain thing we're having today. Have a great day.